Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Jim Rooney, President and CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to this morning's Zoom session. On behalf of the team at the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, we hope that you are joining us today feeling safe and healthy. I think everyone knows and understands the context for this conversation today. We're in the midst of a pandemic and a health crisis, and many of the decisions that our government at all levels, city, state, and federal level have had to make in the interest of public safety has caused economic hardship for individuals and for businesses, no more than our small business community, many of whom are wondering whether or not they're going to be able to sustain in the long term. But government is aware of it and has created programs to try to help us get through this. And it's an unprecedented time, but there are programs at work to try to deal with this. Nonetheless, I'm sure there's a lot of information that people would like to understand about these programs in the small business community, and to help us understand in this unprecedented time, we're joined here today to hear from the District Director and the Deputy District Director of the United States Small Business Administration, Massachusetts District Office. I want to start with a few notes. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared on the Chamber's YouTube page shortly after the presentation. Also, if you have questions, be sure to submit them throughout the webinar using the chat feature on your Zoom application. Or if you choose to, you can email your questions into Chamber Programs, all one word, chamberprograms@bostonchamber.com. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers this morning. District Director Bob Nelson holds over 25 years of federal experience, including 20 years with the SBA. Bob was appointed District Director in 2007 and is responsible for the effective delivery of SBA's financial and business development programs. Before joining the SBA, Bob spent several years with FDIC and has many years of banking experience, having been a commercial lender for several New England area banks. Joining Bob today is Deputy District Director Ppp Kontakos. Peter has extensive experience in federal government contracting, having held a variety of positions at the U.S. Department of Transportation since 2008. During Peter's tenure at U.S. DOT, Peter served as small business specialist and worked hard to promote small business program advocacy and education to a wide range of local, regional, and national audiences. I want to thank them both for joining us today. I've had several conversations over the past few weeks with Bob, and I know that he is barely getting any sleep these days in terms of implementing the programs that we all read about and care about for small businesses. So with that, thanks for all you're doing, Peter and Bob, and I'll turn it over to District Director Bob Nelson.
Well, good morning, Jim, and it's a pleasure to be on the Chamber's call this morning to share information about the SBA and our programs and what we're up to and what is most current and happening at the moment. So, but certainly, being able to, connect with an audience such as the Chamber's members, this is really important in order to try to get information out to the entire small business community. So we welcome the opportunity to be with you all and to share some updates. So, I think it's important for us to talk about what happened on March 18th. And so that's SBA in Massachusetts. There was a full statewide declaration that was made after the request by the governor to the SBA administrator. And what that did is it opened up the availability of SBA economic injury disaster loans that small businesses and private nonprofits could apply for directly through the SBA. The website is www.sba.gov/disaster. These are direct loans from the SBA to help small businesses to meet their working capital needs and to make payments that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to pay had the disaster not occurred. And under the disaster loan program, the loans go up to $2 million. The interest rate is 3.75% fixed. The term can be as long as 30 years. Our disaster loan programs, this is part of SBA's normal work when you think of disasters that happen around the country, whether it's floods, hurricanes, tornadoes. SBA is the disaster recovery agency that helps small businesses, homeowners, and renters to recover from those disasters. And so we got the disaster declaration. We started accepting economic injury disaster loan applications on the 18th. And we accepted a number of applications. Our original application submission, many businesses went through that. Then SBA released a second version of that application submission. But the important thing to remember is that with the CARES Act passage, what was authorized under the CARES Act was what's known as the economic injury loan advance of up to $10,000. And so in order to request that advance, small businesses and nonprofits need to go into the sba.gov/disaster and to reapply. It's a very, very easy, streamlined process at this point of the time. I don't think anyone would have any challenge in doing the quick submission. This way, you're assured of being, eligible for that grant of up to $10,000. And, you don't have to apply or take down an economic injury disaster loan. You could just benefit from the economic injury loan advance, which does not have to be repaid. So, for all intents, it's called a loan advance, but it does not have to be repaid. So it's a grant. And so this is money that potentially could be up to $10,000 per applicant. And again, I don't think that you'll have a hard time, so we're encouraging applicants that previously submitted under the two other methods to go back in, because the advance only became available because of the CARES Act. And so that's why we needed to incorporate this into that application into that portal. So that's the suggestion on that with respect to economic injury loans. So, economic injury loans, they absolutely can be a lifeline for small businesses to make any working capital payments that they otherwise would have been able to pay had the disaster not occurred. So it can be very important for small businesses. But with the CARES Act, SBA was given in round numbers, $350 billion to do what's called a Paycheck Protection Program loan. And so unlike the disaster loan program, the PPP loans are applied for through SBA lenders, and the loans can be up to $10 million. The proceeds can pay up to 8 weeks of payroll cost, including benefits. And the funds can also be used to pay interest on a mortgage, rent, or utilities during that period. And the whole purpose of the PPP is for small businesses, if they've laid off or furloughed employees, to get them back on the payroll using the money from the Paycheck Protection Program. And when this all passes, which hopefully it's going to pass quickly, the small businesses are going to have their workforce ready. They've been on the business's payroll and being paid by the business through the PPP loan program, and that business would be able to get back up and running as quickly as possible. That is the whole purpose of the program. It's very simple. The application for the small business is pretty simple. They need to be able to determine what their payroll costs are, but certainly a newer business or a seasonal business can also apply for a PPP loan. And I can tell you that the program was stood up in 1 week. The president signed the bill the Friday before. Last Friday, the program went live. I can tell you that nationally, there have been billions of dollars of approvals. In Massachusetts, there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of applications that have been approved for very significant dollars. And so I know our lenders worked over the weekend. They worked through the night. The lenders absolutely have been swamped with requests from small businesses, looking to see whether their lender would be able to do a PPP loan for them and to help them out. And but when I look at the list and the activity, I have seen banks and credit unions up in the Berkshires, out on Martha's Vineyard, larger banks, regional banks, community banks, credit unions. We're really fortunate here in the Commonwealth that we have an extremely robust network of lenders who use the SBA's programs, in the normal world, and help small businesses with access to capital through our guarantee. And so under the Paycheck Protection Plan loan, there's certainly, we're encouraging businesses to look at the economic injury loan, look at the PPP loan, try to figure out which is the best program for them. Under the PPP, again, it goes up to $10 million. There's no collateral requirements. There's no personal guarantee requirements. The interest rate is 1%. There's an immediate 6 months worth of deferrals on those. And, the good news, in my opinion, so we've asked the lenders yesterday to get the money out the door as quickly as they can. So I know that lenders are now scrambling to try to, get their processes in order to be able to close all these thousands of loans that have been approved by the SBA and to get money to the small businesses. And with these loans being unsecured, basically it's a note and an SBA loan authorization. I think you're going to see money getting into the hands of small businesses really quickly, which is good news for all of us in the economy. And so that is certainly something that is happening, and lenders continue to get status to become a PPP lender. Different banks, are coming on board every day with their processes. Some larger banks, working with outside parties in order to help them to be able to process the significant number of loan requests that these institutions have received. And so we're going to continue to see really strong activity on PPP in Massachusetts. And I'm just proud of our partners, the Small Business Development Centers, our SCORE network, the Center for Women in Enterprise, our community partners and other consultants who are working with businesses to try to help them with the technical assistance so that they can figure out the benefits and the nuances of the different programs. But I can't stress enough that we're giving the lender 100% guarantee on the PPP loan, and lenders are responding. They're working very, very hard to process these applications in order to help our small businesses. There were some kinks in the road early on Friday with, trying to get lenders set up with systems and getting password resets, and that would be for lenders who had not been active with us for a couple different months. And when that happens, their systems get locked, and we have to go through a two-step authentication process to get systems back up so that lenders can submit these loans to us. And it's just a process, and we've been able to clear most of those backlogs. There's still just a couple hanging out there, but my team has been doing an amazing job in getting our lenders able to accept these applications and to do these loans. So the third program that I just wanted to touch on briefly, it's called an Express Bridge Pilot. And so similar to the PPP, where the applicant is going to a lender. So for an Express Bridge loan, the applicant goes to an SBA Express lender. If they go onto the Massachusetts website, which is sba.gov/MA, they'll find a lender list, which is all of our lenders with our regular loan program, and you can easily identify who has express status. Most of our lenders in Massachusetts have express status, so they'd be able to do one of those Express Bridge pilots. It's a $25,000 loan. It can be 100% unsecured. It's credit scored using SBA's model with a very generous score, so that more small businesses would be eligible for that. And it's just a way that a lender is able to get up to $25,000 to a small business pretty quickly, to bridge the gap until they get their funding under an economic injury loan or under the PPP loan. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention, it's called SBA's Debt Relief Program. So for example, in Massachusetts last year, we helped about 1,700 small businesses with about $720 million in capital support. That's just in Massachusetts. Under the debt relief program, SBA will be paying 6 months worth of payments on those existing SBA borrowers. That's a 7A loan, a 504 loan, a micro loan, but it's also going to pay 6 months of payments on future SBA borrowers. So for someone who is looking for a new loan under the debt relief program, SBA will be paying 6 months worth of payments on that loan. So given how productive we are here in Massachusetts, this is a huge economic stimulus for our businesses in Massachusetts, just because we have so many existing SBA borrowers out there, and to be able to get 6 months worth of payments on their obligations, it really is significant and is going to be a shot in the arm to these businesses with helping them with some capital. So two messages that I'd like to ask folks to help us with is, if they have questions, to go onto SBA's website, and SBA's website, sba.gov/paycheck protection. That's where I want them to start. sba.gov/paycheck protection. That will have all the information, the forms, the borrower form, the lender form, the interim final rules, FAQs. It's really well laid out. I think by looking at that page, it's going to answer many of the questions that small businesses have on the PPP. But then if they scroll down to the bottom, they click next, it takes them into the economic injury disaster loan and the loan advance section. Down the bottom of that, they click next, it takes them to the Express Bridge program. And then at the bottom of that, click on that, it takes them to the debt relief program. So basically 4 main programs with 4 clicks to get through the different programs. So folks could look at that, read the materials, and then if you do have questions after you've looked at those things, we're suggesting that folks send an email onto the Massachusetts District Office General Mailbox. That's Massachusetts DO@SBA.gov. The DO stands for District Office, so Massachusetts DO@SBA.gov. If you send those emails into there, everyone on my staff has access, and we're responding to those emails as quickly as we can. But for folks who are out there, if you do have something urgent, it's something that I need to know, don't be shy about shooting me an email, calling me personally. I'm here to help. This is my job, and glad to connect with members of the chamber to try to answer specific questions that haven't been addressed after your review of the programs on the site. And then the last thing I'll mention is, again, signing up for our e-newsletter. Go on to sba.gov/updates. You put in your email address, your zip code. If you're in Massachusetts, you're going to get our email updates with the most current, accurate information that we have for all of you. But these programs are intended to be a lifeline to try to help small businesses to survive and to recover. And but again, I can't stress enough the partner network that we have through SCORE and the Small Business Development Centers and our Women's Center, who are providing technical assistance and working remotely, but absolutely available and connecting with small businesses and providing technical assistance and guidance on all of these programs, but other issues. So again, we have an amazing team here in Massachusetts. So Peter, are you on?
Yes, I'm on, Bob.
Yeah, so not sure if there's anything that you want to add before we get into some Q&A from folks. And so I'll turn it over to you for some comments from yourself.
Sure, thank you, Bob. Bob, I
Peter,
think you really covered everything very well. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it could be helpful if you talk to people. We're getting lots of requests for events and speaking opportunities, and so I know all of those are going through you. But if you could touch on that, as far as what you suggest that people do and how they can work with us, so that we can provide information to different groups across the state.
Absolutely, thanks, Bob. So Bob, I think you did a great job covering all the programs that SBA is offering, all the work that our office is doing. And, as Bob mentioned, we are conducting webinars such as the one that we're doing today. We're trying to get the word out to folks. There are a lot of different groups and organizations and stakeholders that have been reaching out to us for support and wanting to have us conduct webinars and share information. So, I guess my recommendation would be, in order for us to deliver the message as effectively as possible, we really want to try and reach a large group of people simultaneously, if possible. So please feel free to email me directly at peter.kontakos, and I'll spell that for you, at sba.gov. So it's Peter, P-E-T-E-R, K-O-N like Nancy, T like Tom, A-K-O-S at sba.gov. As Bob mentioned, we're trying to coordinate all the different virtual training webinars and sessions, informational sessions, and tailoring them to the organizations and the stakeholders that are asking for these types of events. So please feel free to reach out to me if you do have an interest in that, or just any general questions at all. So with that, I'll turn it back over to our hosts. I know we have some questions.
Yeah.
Want to give folks some time to be able to submit those questions and have us be able to answer them. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you both, Bob and Peter. And yeah, the questions are rolling in, so we'll get right to them. So let's start with volume. You mentioned, Bob, being swamped, and we've read reports about the amount of money in each program. Is that money allocated somehow by state or by region? So, for example, the Ppp Loan Program, as I understand it, nationwide is $350 billion. Is there just so much for Massachusetts within that that's already been determined?
No, that is a national pot of money. There's no allocation by state. And I really do look at it like it's my job to try to help get as many federal dollars into the Commonwealth as possible. And this is why it's a full court press by us to make sure that people know about the programs and how to access them. But we have heard that there is the possibility of a voice vote on the Senate on Thursday with a request for another $250 billion for this. So we'll see what happens with the elected officials. Peter's job, my entire team we're not policy folks. We implement the policy, and so very happy with what we've been able to do so far with the tremendous activity that we've seen with all of these different programs. And but yeah, there's nothing specific for Massachusetts. I just want to help as many businesses here in the Commonwealth as I can.
Great. So I think you've partly answered this question. Our bank is not yet taking applications, so it sounds like this bank's still getting up and running. And the question is, will there be money left?
Yeah, so again, hopefully there's going to be money left. I know that lenders are that want to do PPP are really working hard in order to get their systems in sync so that they can do these. Right now, as we speak, there's still a significant amount of money available within the PPP program, so people don't have to worry about funds running out today or tomorrow. There's money available, and as you heard me mention, there's talk about a new allocation for this program. So one of the things to keep in mind on this is that we started accepting applications from small businesses and nonprofits, so sole proprietorships with no employees and independent contractors. They're unable to apply for PPP until January 10th. So so once that happens, on January 10th, there's going to be another influx of applicants that are going to be looking for lenders and how to access the program. So again, on the SBA Massachusetts website, there's a listing of all of the lenders who have PPP status. Not every single one is going to participate in the program, but those are the list of the Massachusetts lenders that have PPP status and the ability to do these. There is a search tool available where you can put in your zip code and it will populate with PPP lenders in your immediate geographic area. We did send out a survey 11 o'clock a day ago to, I think, 800 individual lenders on our list, asking them, are they going to participate in PPP? Will they do it only for customers? Will they do it for non-customers? Are they putting other conditions in there? So we're building that intelligence with the responses from these lenders, and that's something that we're looking to share to try to help people who might not know where to go. And one of the other things that SBA is working on the national side is they're working on a form and a process in order to be able to accept non-traditional lenders with the status to do PPP loans. So, typically with SBA, it's a traditional lender, a bank, a credit union, but we're looking for, possibly some fintechs and other types of entities that want to help us to do PPP loans. And so that's a different process that we're waiting for the form and that application. But I know that there are folks who really want to help us in order to be able to deliver.
Great. A question on timing, two-part. One is money already flowing in Massachusetts? Have applicants already received some loan proceeds under any of these programs? And can you speak to the expected timing between approval of application and issuance of loan proceeds?
Okay, yeah, so under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, the initial guidance that we were provided is that it could take up to 21 days for a decision, and then another 5 to 7 days for closing. So that's basically, in round numbers, a total of a month process. I do know that Massachusetts loans have been approved quicker than that 21 days. And, we're talking some pretty significant dollars for businesses with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So we're being told that with this new streamlined process, if you go on to sba.gov/disaster, you'll find a very new streamlined approach that SBA has. We've tweaked some of the processes to make it simpler for small businesses, some of the requirements less restrictive. We are waiting for some guidance to come out of Treasury before we go public with some of that information, but we're told that absolutely the EIDL loans are going to speed up. We're expecting the EIDL loan advances, those grants for those funds to start flowing very, very soon. Under the Paycheck Protection Program loan, with it being administered by a bank, I know I've heard of some banks who have already closed loans and gotten money to small businesses. The guidance on the form of note, we gave them some information yesterday. The form of the SBA authorization, that's going to come out today. And lenders are going to start closing these loans. And the closing is pretty simple. And so again, I think businesses are going to start seeing money under the PPP loans, with a matter of a couple days. We've asked our lenders to try to close these loans within 5 days of the approval by the SBA. And I know that some lenders who have received hundreds and hundreds of applications, they're now challenged with trying to close these things as quickly as they can in order to get money to small businesses. It is a process with everything.
Yeah. A related question, you talked about timing. Is there a way that applicants can track progress?
So on the economic injury disaster loan, currently as we speak, we're directing people if they want to check on the status of their application. We have an 800 number, and we also have an email address. We have been told that SBA is looking to come out with a more current version of the disaster loan portal at sba.gov/disaster, where an applicant will be able to go in and to check on the status of their applicant and where it is. I can tell you that's a lot of the questions that we've been getting. I get so many individual requests from people asking, hey, can you check on the status of my application? And that's something that we can't do locally as far as, having the ability to go into a system to see where it is. But we heard that the call center has been staffed up significantly, so wait times should be less than people have been experiencing. But again, having the ability to check electronically the status of your application, that's really where we need to be, and that's where SBA is heading. But on the PPP, it's just staying in touch with your lender. These again should be closed very quickly. The application process, once the lender submits the application to the SBA electronically, they get an instantaneous approval from us. So there's no delay on the part of SBA with the decision as long as the application is complete. So it's a pretty streamlined, quick process.
Bob, several questions in the queue about nonprofit eligibility, and now and maybe in the future. Maybe you can talk about nonprofit eligibility. One specific question is that the EIL on the application doesn't say it does not have to be repaid. It states it's a loan. Could you clarify if this is a grant for nonprofits? And maybe that's a general question about, what is a loan and what is a grant, or when does a loan become a grant?
Sure. So, on the economic injury disaster loan and also on the PPP loan, private nonprofits are eligible to apply. We did hear on the PPP loan that there is no size standard on nonprofits. The other thing that we have heard is on nonprofits, so we want them to apply for both we did come out with some guidance with respect to religious organizations under SBA's normal loan programs. Businesses that are involved with promoting religion are not eligible for SBA's regular loan programs, but they are eligible for economic injury and for PPP. So that was some guidance that came out. It might have been over the weekend. And so we've been seeing a lot of nonprofits and different religious organizations apply for these loans and to take advantage of the opportunity. But the economic injury loan advance of up to $10,000, it's called a loan advance, but it doesn't have to be paid. So for all intents, it is a grant. And what we've been told is that even applicants that have been declined are eligible for that economic injury loan advance. And so this is why we're suggesting that everyone go onto SBA's website for that economic injury loan advance and to request the money. That's the only way that you're going to have the ability to possibly benefit from that. So on the PPP loan, if the business is able to, if they haven't let employees go, they're able to maintain their payrolls. But businesses who have let people go or furloughed people, putting them back on the payrolls and then maintaining those payrolls, for the 8 weeks, they have the ability for that loan to be 100% forgiven. So again, it's a loan, but it is a forgivable loan, which could be called a grant. And this is a disaster program. This is to try to help these businesses to make payroll, and to also, under the PPP, they can use it to pay some mortgage interest or rent and utilities. And these are obligations that small businesses have, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to meet their obligations. But again, this is a forgivable loan. And
so it is a loan, but it's forgivable, is I think the answer. So you've mentioned several programs, PPP, EIDL. Are these mutually exclusive? How do they work together? Can you apply for multiple programs?
Peter, do you want to touch on that?
Sure, Bob. So if I heard the question correctly, it's regarding PPP and EIDL and whether they're mutually exclusive or not, correct?
Right.
Okay. So folks can apply for the EIDL, they can apply for the advance, they can also apply for PPP. So with regards to the PPP loan program, the true purpose of that program is to, as Bob just mentioned, cover the payroll for the next 8 to 10 weeks, to be able to, have the business be able to pay their employees, pay the utilities, the rent, the mortgage interest, so that hopefully when this all passes, folks can get back to work, the businesses can start up again. So, so folks can apply for the PPP for that purpose. If they apply then for the EIDL, they're eligible for funding from the EIDL program, but the purpose has to be different. So you can't have the same purpose for the PPP loan program and for the EIDL program, but as long as the purposes of what the funding is going to be used for are different, then they're not mutually, then at that point you can apply for both programs, the PPP and the EIDL.
So,
great, thank you.
So Jim, one of the important things to remember, so PPPs are available to be applied for through June 30th. With the SBA's Economic Injury Loan Program, the application deadline is in December of 2020. So, depending on what happens, how quickly we can get back to work and businesses can get back operational, there might be the need for them to apply down the road a bit. and they might not know what their true economic injury is. But say they applied for an economic injury loan, and things are going a little bit longer. There's the ability to request an increase on that economic injury loan in order to be able to continue to meet their working capital needs. So keep that in the back of your mind, that they're separate programs. But what I've been encouraging people to do on the PPP is to figure out what the forgivable portion is. That, in my opinion, is what they should be applying for. And then look to the economic injury loan for other working capital needs that they have. So, under the PPP, it covers, utilities, it covers, rent, covers mortgage interest plus payroll. So you might have some accounts payable, you might have insurance payments, you might have other things, so those could be covered through the SBA's economic injury loan program. It's a separate purpose than the PPP, and so I look at them as complementary, but they're very different programs.
Okay, a quick follow-up on the nonprofit question. Are union organizations, 501c5s, eligible for PPP loans?
Jim, I'd have to get back to you on that. So, what we've seen is 501c3s. I know that there's a lot of concern that 501c6s are not currently eligible, and I know that different chambers and 501c6s are, reaching out to their representatives in order to try to see whether there's the possibility of a change to incorporate 501c6s. But as far as 501c7, that's one that I don't know specifically. But if whoever's asking the question, if they want to shoot me an email, we'll get the guidance and share it with you, Jim, so that you have it.
Great. We'll follow up. A quick request, Bob. You mentioned some resource links, and people would like you to repeat them. We posted them in the chat. We'll also put them on our website. But Bob, could you repeat the where people can go for questions?
Sure. So the Massachusetts website is sba.gov/MA. The Massachusetts District Office General Mailbox is massachusettsdo@sba.gov. And again, to sign up for our email updates, it would be sba.gov/updates. You put in your email address, you put in your zip code, and you will start getting those state-specific e-blasts. And I can tell you, Norman Eng, who works for us in Massachusetts as our public affairs specialist, he does an amazing job with the e-blast that we put out with real good information, not only on the SBA programs and webinars and other events that are happening, but how to connect with our resource partners and to take advantage of their free services. And so again, they're free, they're available, they're working remote, but these are people who at the Small Business Development Center, they're full-time paid staff with the SCORE, they're volunteer mentors. The Women's Center, these are all our formal resource partners, but we have a lot of community partners also, and that's why I wanted Peter to talk about, future potential webinars and other opportunities. We have a lot of different organizations connecting with us. And it's all about trying to get information out. On with Senator Markey last night, and was connected with a Spanish radio that I think broadcasts in 4 different states in Spanish, and a huge audience. So we're going to get on there and do a Spanish webinar. And again, I want to make sure, as Senator Markey does, to make sure that there's access and opportunity for everyone.
Great. In any loan program, especially a program as big as this, you can expect some defaulting. Will SBA guarantee the unsecured loans, or will the bank's underwriting be responsible?
So with the PPP loan, it is a 100% guaranteed loan by the SBA. So the bank is fully protected. If you look at the interim final rules, it clearly puts the burden on the small business to provide accurate information to the bank. The bank has to just do, the simple due diligence and looking at the borrower's payroll numbers and their employee. We need to make sure that it's a small business, and it's a pretty simple process on the part of the lender, and that's the way it was intended to be. This is not a traditional 7A guaranteed loan. This is intended to be exactly what it is, 100% guaranteed loan from us that the banks are helping us to process in order to be able to reach small businesses and get money out the door. And then with our economic injury loan, it is 100% government money. And I know with my career in working for the SBA for all these years, with and this is true of our regular loan programs also, we want to work with businesses and try to modify loans in order to try to help them. It's all about, if the borrower is honest and there's no evidence of fraud, we want to help them to, modify loans in order to try to help them with their repayment ability. But, there will be loans that will go bust. But the EIDL loan is a direct loan program from the SBA.
Great. Bob, you acknowledged in your comments, during the development phase of these loan programs, just some issues you had to work through, problems on all sides. Can you talk about the biggest pain points that you're dealing with on both sides, the lender and the SBA, and what you're having to do to resolve them?
Yes, so it's changed, with the day. And so right now, what we need to get our lenders is the comfort and guidance so that they can close these loans and to get them funded. So that's the big priority of the day, in getting that information out so that they will start pumping money out to small businesses. But the challenges have evolved with time. So, early on, it was, trying to get the lenders set up in our systems. And as I mentioned earlier, we still have a couple that are, that we still need to get them all the way through that process. And then we need to do some training for our new banks on the electronic process and the electronic system, because some of these banks are brand spanking new, and they need some training in order to be able to put these loan applications in through the system.
Okay. Another question on availability of funds. Is it true that once you get a registration number from SBA, even if the loan is not fully approved, the loan proceeds are essentially set aside for a borrower pending final approval?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, so the lender works with the borrower on the PPP. The lender submits the application to the SBA. If the application is incomplete, the lender's going to get some warnings and some error messages. They need to work through those errors in order to get them cleared so that the application can get submitted. Once the application gets submitted to the SBA, it gets an immediate approval by the SBA, and the funds are reserved, because once the lender submits the application to the SBA, it's assigned an SBA loan number, and those monies are earmarked for that loan for the dollar amount that's approved.
Okay. Question about requests for deferral of funding. Some applicants are asking banks to defer funding the PPP loan until the economy picks back up and their business reopens. Banks want to confirm how to handle this, as it seems to be against the intent of the program. Do you have any guidance on requests to defer the funding?
So with PPP, the purpose is to get money out now so that businesses can get people back on the payrolls if they have been let go or furloughed. And with the PPP, there is a immediate 6-month automatic deferment of payments. So if you really look at it, the business gets the PPP loan. They don't have to make payments on it. Then, within that 6-month period, they're going to be submitting the request to the bank for hopefully 100% of the loan to be forgiven. And so the loan will be forgiven. And so, but the business does not have to worry about making payments for 6 months under PPP. Mm-hmm. And then under the economic injury loan, it's an immediate 12-month deferment that SBA has authorized. So those borrowers on EIDL loans, they don't have to make a payment on those, for a full year.
Right. Question on, the question is about questions on applications that applicants are not sure how to answer. So specifically, EIDL application asks for lost rents due to the disaster. At this time, I don't know my total loss. How do I answer this question? How do I substantiate the amount? Can you amend later?
Absolutely. So, and that's why I wanted to mention that, EIDL loan applicants, they can apply through December of this year. And, businesses are going to learn what the true economic injury to them is as the situation evolves. And so, if someone isn't paying them, and so they have lost rents, that's economic injury to them, and so that's certainly that they can request the working capital in order to be able to take care of their obligations with that lost money that they're not getting. And but as it evolves, the SBA economic injury loans, they go up to $2 million, and a request for an increase is certainly possible and something that SBA deals with all the time.
I think you addressed this earlier, but if you've already laid off employees, can you apply for PPP?
So what a business should be thinking about is, given their specific situation, are they going to be able to bring people back onto the payroll? And if they don't think they're going to be able to bring people back on the payroll, then a Paycheck Protection Program loan probably isn't the mechanism that they should be looking at, and they should be looking at the economic injury disaster loan, because the whole purpose of PPP is to try to get people back on the payroll, and if they haven't been let go, for the business to be able to maintain the payments. So the thing to remember with the PPP and what's allowed is it covers benefits too. And so, if you think of unemployment, you're not getting benefits under unemployment. You're just getting the unemployment benefit. And so with PPP, benefits are included in the eligible loan amount as far as the payroll cost.
Right. Can PPP be used for household employees?
It cannot.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just going through my queue here. We got those.
Peter, what thoughts do you have, or tips, given the different things that you've been reading and hearing? I want to give you an opportunity to share some thoughts with the audience.
Me?
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Bob. So, a lot of these questions that we're hearing today, we're not hearing them for the first time. Some of them we are, but I think just in general, the feedback I would provide is that a lot of folks out there are really trying to figure this all out, right? So they're trying to really understand what is each program about and which one is the right program to pursue. So I'm hoping, the conversation that we're having today and conversations that we'll continue to have going forward will help inform folks in terms of determining what their strategy is. Does the PPP loan program, really benefit you and your business? Is the EIDL a better option? Is it simply the advance? So, again, I think it's really dependent on each specific business's situation. In terms of what the right approach is. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, in terms of which program to pursue. So I really do think it all depends. I know that can be frustrating to hear, but that's really the sense that I've been getting, from folks. And, I'll just add too, and I know Bob's alluded to it, this is an evolving situation. So the situation itself that we're going through is evolving. And then, the legislation that, got passed, there potentially could be additional legislation, the implementation of that legislation, the policy and how to implement that, how to execute it. So, things do change on a daily basis, as Bob had mentioned before. So I do really encourage folks to also, check out our website and check out the links that Bob mentioned, because things can change, and they can change for the better too. For instance, the web portal for applying for the EIDL. Right now, it's a really streamlined process, as Bob mentioned, and it's pretty easy to get through. That specific portal didn't exist, from day one. It got improved, over time, about a week later. So I definitely think just keeping up with this stuff and definitely signing up for the delivery notices that Bob mentioned to get our e-blast from SBA, reaching out to our office and just keeping up to speed with what's going on. I know it's difficult, but these things are changing very rapidly. So I think that's the best advice I could give on.
Great, thanks, Peter.
Great, Peter and Bob. And I'll just give you one more question, and before we wrap up, that I don't think I got to. Do the inclusions and exclusion rules for payroll costs for calculating the loan amount under PPP loan also apply to the way that the loan can be spent in order to be forgiven? For example, 75% in payroll costs.
Right. So 75% payroll cost. The other 25% could be for those items noted as far as mortgage interest or rent or utilities. That's included as part of the forgivable portion also, but can't be those other items can't be more than 25% of the loan amount. Okay. But again, I think if folks go on to that SBA.gov/paycheck protection, look at the interim final rules, look at the application form. The interim final rules is 31 pages, but it's really easy reading. Even if you're not, a banker, and I think it will answer a lot of the questions that people have.
Okay. On that note, the information to those links will be on the Chamber site. We'll send them out to the people that participated in this call. I want to thank Bob and Peter for sharing your time, your insights, and answering so many questions. I do want to make sure people are aware of the COVID-19 business resource page on the Chamber's website, where you can get these links, get information about what is happening at the local, state, and federal level. Many of the questions talked about efforts to expand the program's eligibility, particularly in the nonprofit arena. We'll be tracking that, as well as anything that comes out of any of our other levels of government. And you'll also find information there about upcoming webinars. So take a look at our website. And once again, Bob and Peter and the entire team at the Massachusetts office, thank you for all that you are doing on behalf of our small businesses. And thank you all on the call for joining us. This concludes this morning's webinar, and we're signing off.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.